Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. Good to be back from a short time off. Okay, but very, very serious news. Everybody will probably recall the shock attack on Saturday by terrorists, female terrorists that were suicide bombers. And what we had a spate of 4 different bombings over the weekend. The first at a wedding in Mararaba in the area, second at a security checkpoint, third at a shopping mall, and the fourth at a burial ground. All of that must have sent shockwaves of terror. However, the Nigerian authorities, the president has said that this will not go unresolved. It will not go unpunished, and that this was the throes of the people who had been dislodged originally from Gwazo before they had sort of taken it back. So to sort of find out, with the benefit of expertise and experience, how this had happened. Of course, they won't go calling people and say we're about to strike, but that there was still this kind of fight left, if that is the way to put it, in those terrorists who are suspected to be Boko Haram, people. And for that, we have 2 experts in the house, but the first of them is ready for us. Brigadier General Sani Kukasheka. Brigadier General Kukasheka, retired, is a strategic communications expert and former director of the Nigerian Army Public Relations. A fine morning to you, Brigadier.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Very well, thank you. A very sad incident, because the death toll has risen, as reported by local newspapers, to 23 from the original, the original number of up to 18 being circulated. So tell me, General, of course, this must have surprised everybody. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been so easy. But how we also hear reports that in the midst of all that carnage, some suicide bombers were actually arrested. A couple of suicide bombers, I think, were actually reported. So how could this kind of a thing happen is probably the question you ask, because it must have taken everybody by surprise.
Well, first and foremost, this horrible act is condemnable, and my heart goes to the good people of Goza, especially the families of the victims, and my sincere condolences to all those affected by this carnage. Possibly to some people it might be surprising, but for anybody who knows, the trajectory of terrorists and insurgents, you will not be surprised, because they are very, very determined and they are very resilient. And you should understand it is ideological. And those who have had contact with them will understand that actually they don't give up even at the point of death. So, and then when you look at the fact that multinational joint task force, in conjunction with the other countries, have embarked on concerted Operation Lake Sanity 1 and 2, displacing them in most of the islands, timbers, in the Lake Chad region. And the fact that Air Force have also commenced operation on the Mandara Mountains, where some of them have hibernating, particularly the Alungule faction, who has lost over 200 of his men recently. There is every likelihood there could be a kind of reprisal. And then again, this is rainy season and farming season. And most importantly, the fact that Goza community, peace has returned to the community, and people tend to relax and take things for granted. But of course, like I said, the terrorists are determined and unrelenting. So when you look at this aspect, you realize that it is not surprising, but at the same time, it is surprising. And you see the pattern of the attacks. They are well-timed and coordinated. First, a wedding, then of course they knew for sure people will sympathize, people will bury the people. They also, unleash, at the various gathering of the people. So you can understand it was well planned and coordinated. And the fact that I think some of the suicide bombers, they are not even indigenous or residents of Goza town, because there were instances or reported cases that they were even asking for direction. But so you should understand that actually they take and do advantage of the seemingly peaceful atmosphere and sense of belonging that the community offered, and betrayed that trust. So, but the most important thing now is to cater for the wounded, and then, of course, look at what needs to be done, because there is every likelihood the perpetrators of these heinous crimes are not far from the community within or the immediate environment. And that is why I commend the effort of the security forces for, embarking on cordon and search operations, so that if there are remnants of such people, they will be, arrested and, of course, dealt with. And most importantly, we should also embark on, security education and sensitization. Because if you look at it, Goza is so strategic to the Boko Haram. Remember, that was the capital of their moribund caliphate. And even the emir was killed by Boko Haram. And of course, there were so many Islamic scholars that were killed, along with their almajirs. I think over 72 of them. So that means to tell you that it is strategic to them. So they won't give up so easily like that. And people should not take things for granted. And every other person should not take things for granted. And neighboring Pulka and other surrounding villages, there are. In fact, there were instances at Guduf, on the mountain, and Mbombom and the rest. There were instances where the Boko Haram infiltrated and, launched attacks and so on. So, but they took undue advantage of these circumstances and infiltrated the community. So it is not surprising. But most important...
Sorry, I was going to say, as you said, this, if we needed it, has now become something of a wake-up call. The nature of the foe this time, women suicide bombers. Of course, we know that there are female soldiers, there are women soldiers all over the world, including Nigeria. But this level, you spoke about the ideological aspect, this level of acceptance of whatever the doctrine is that makes a woman, in fact, as you know, the initial report, the area report that the woman at the wedding had a baby strapped to her back. The suicide bomber at the wedding had a baby strapped to her back. Now, this level of commitment, I wonder if you were surprised about that, because most people would be, because we tend to look at women from a different perspective. But of course, now the gloves are off and everybody's a suspect. But that the level of commitment, did that surprise you?
Not at all. Because if you look back, there were instances where female suicide bombers detonated. And of course, we had an exceptional situation whereby somehow her conscience pricked her and she refused to, and then reported. And way back when I was Director of Army Public Relations, there was an instance where someone, as part of his contribution, donated his daughter to the Boko Haram cause to be a suicide bomber. And luckily, she did not detonate. But those things, so it's not surprising. But the most worrying aspect of it is that for the suicide bomber to tag along, minors, because whoever is being backed, such person could be less than 2 years old. And not only that, she was alleged to be, carrying along with her one other minor. So this is really, really disturbing and worrisome. If it is somebody like an adult female, it is not so surprising, because there were instances like that. But now this has brought in a new dimension. Where was she coming from? Is she coming from the IDP camp, and who saw her, and so on and so forth? These are the things. But I think with this effort, with the ongoing efforts of investigation and cordon and such, I'm sure these things will be unraveled. And then, of course, like you mentioned, it is a wake-up call. Know that we should not take security for granted, regardless of the circumstances. And let me tell you, the issue of war economy is real. People are benefiting from all this complex situation. Is it those that supply arms, those that supply information, those that supply logistics, and so on and so forth? So it is not surprising, because whoever is behind it really planned this and coordinated, in the sense that there could be other people. Because I think the last suicide bomber alighted from a tricycle and just grabbed the civilian JTF and the soldier. Luckily enough, they did not die. I think they sustained degrees of injury. We wish them speedy recovery. So these are the issues. So who was even driving the Keke Napep and all the rest? And you know, if you are familiar with Goza, so much as it's a big town, almost everybody knows each other, even though there are influx of IDPs, you know, at the IDP camp. But it's something that people have to be more security conscious to deal with this issue. And I hope and pray that the good people of Goza will cooperate with security forces and support them, so that these culprits will be pushed out, and most importantly, to prevent such reoccurrence.
I'm sure that the army probably is investigating, as we speak.
Yeah, they are. In fact, the theater commander has moved in addition to the brigade commander, but not just all the security forces, the police and others. And, the emergency management agency and so on. And it's very commendable that the state government also, as the acting state governor, has visited along with the senator representing the senatorial district. And we should rally around to give support to these people and support the security agencies, so that this issue could be fully investigated and prevented. Not just in Goza, but in the northeast. We cannot afford to have so many vistas of security challenges all over.
Indeed. And the other chilling fact was that a shopping mall was the venue of one of them. This certainly sends out a message to the populace that, look, people cannot be too careful, because they are no doubt, the enemy is no doubt looking at some aspects of complacency, perhaps, that has settled on the public to pull off this kind of a stunt. Just look at it. Right. These are civilian events and a civilian venue, a shopping mall, for instance. In terms of the sort of military psychology, what does this point towards? There are experts, I imagine, within the military that look at these kind of things. First of all, the mere fact that all of these, it was so coordinated. Started off at a wedding, then a checkpoint, then a shopping mall, and then a burial ground. So it looked as if they actually hoped that these would be linked. And more importantly, it points to the fact that they seem to have a very strong, what can I call it, command structure to get these people to do their bidding.
You are quite right. First and foremost, I mentioned it earlier on, it was well planned and well executed, because they anticipated, and they anticipated what could be the likely thing after the first detonation. People would be rushed to hospital, so they went to hospital. People would be buried, and there could be, condolence visits. They also went there. And of course, checkpoints usually. So basically, it was well planned and well coordinated. I think the only thing now is going back to the drawing board, emphasize on security education and more security consciousness among the people. And I can rest assure you, a lot of people who have seen things with the benefit of science side, they will start talking, and the pieces will be, put together, and we'll have a clearer picture. But most importantly is to coordinate the people and the security agencies to ensure if there are remnants of such people are fished out. And then, of course, to go after the perpetrators. But, of course, they know for sure Alingule definitely could be the mastermind behind that, because he has been severely hit, and they are moving from helter-skelter with the concerted military operations and what have you. So they thought of this option, which, remember, suicide bombing had been with them over time, you know, and they lack the capacity to detonate IEDs because over 65% of their IED experts have been taken out. So there are a lot of factors. So, but most importantly, we should not take things for granted, particularly those living within those areas, Goza, Hulka, you know, all the villages surrounding Mandara Mountains and all the rest. But of course, most importantly, the military should continue with the, you know, continuous onslaught, especially on the Mandara Mountain, Gudub and what have you.
Yes. I imagine that our neighbors, like Niger Republic, are probably going to sit up and take notice because they were involved in the last...
Including Cameroon. You know, the Bandara Mountain borders more with Cameroon than Niger.
Okay. So those neighbors would certainly have sat up and taken notice that, you know, not yet Uhuru, even though I think I mentioned it earlier, they were dislodged with the help of some of those neighbors. That is, Boko Haram was dislodged when they first of all had seceded, taken the place, and Nigeria had taken it back. But this is what you were saying earlier. They're so resolute, so determined that they've come back when we least expected it. And this is going to be pointing to, as you said, heightened attention all around. Maybe informing the people that it's not. There's no time. As you were saying, I don't even know where this is coming from. Where were these cells? Where were they prepared? Where were they trained? But all of that, I'm sure, the military will let us know the much of it that they can let us know when we get to it. But it is still so shocking. Maybe one sees women as the fairer sex, and because of that, don't expect them to be involved in violence. But it's a matter of indoctrination, and as you pointed out, it's not new to them. They've been into this. Does that mean that the job of security is now sort of doubled? Because I imagine perhaps people had concentrated on the usual the usual culprits when it comes to security, mainly men, generally speaking. But now they know that that's been thrown out. Now women can be as dangerous as the men. It has been proved. Does that put an extra weight on security? One moment, General. Somebody has called in. I didn't hear who it. Tell me who called in. Well, good morning. Somebody called in from Ikeja. Good morning to you. Mr. George. Good morning, Mr. George.
Good morning, Uncle Yori, and welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Greetings to the
Brigadier General.
Yes. Uncle Yori, I think it is time to tell the northern traditional rulers that they are not cooperating enough with our military in this war. Why am I saying that? These suicide bombers, they come from Sambisa forest. Even if they did, how did they know that a wedding is taking place and all those events that they went to attack people? Who gave them the information? It's the members of the community. If you recall, Uncle Yori, severally, many of our soldiers have been killed by Boko Haram through ambush. And it is the information they get from the communities there that they use against our soldiers. The traditional leaders don't seem to realize that they have a duty to cooperate with the military. The military alone cannot win this war. But it appears that the community members, they prefer to feed the Boko Haram with intelligence than our military. I stand to be corrected. The president needs to call the traditional leaders in the north, not only in Goza, not only in Borno State, but in those main war zone states generally, to let them know that the government needs their cooperation.
Yeah.
That's just the point I have on this matter this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. George. Your thoughts, General?
Yeah, you see, in this modern day of technology, Internet of Things, That is what is called open source of information. So the insurgents themselves, they can get information from anywhere, just like the security forces do. You know, human intelligence, use of technology, and so on, so on and so forth. So knowing about when and where it will take place could be from any source. It could be from human intelligence. It could be from, you know, people advertise things by word of mouth. I remember it's a community that where almost everybody knows each other. And in most instances, there were those insurgents that are still in the bush over the mountains, and some of their family members are still within the community. So there are a lot of people, a lot of sources or ways of getting information. But most importantly, I think is the issue of, you know, understanding that these people are so determined and they are very resilient, so they hardly give up even at the point of death. So the earlier we got to know that and understand and passion out way of dealing with that, the better for all of us. Now, you are talking about gender issue. I think the military or the security forces have realized that, and they have started mainstreaming gender. Take, for instance, the Nigerian Army that at a certain point, I was the Director of Army Public Relations, has come up with even a whole core for the female, you know, gender, to the extent that they are performing very, very well. I think there were instances along Kaduna-Abuja Road, and there were instances in here in the FCT, particularly towards Kepi, and of course, even in Lagos. So it is in realization of that. And it is not just the issue of intelligence gathering or even, you know, searching and what have you. So it is not something, the security forces are quite aware of this fact, the dynamism of the, you know, security challenges, and they are rising to that occasion. And it is to that extent that even the Army now has an aviation corps, now with helicopters inducted and so on and so forth. So these are the things. So it is not as if they are being, you know, overstretched, so to speak. They are. But all they require is the support and understanding of the larger society. And when you are dealing with insurgency, when you put it on 100% scale, you know, the kinetic effort, which is the military component of the coercive effort, is less than 35%. So that what happened to the 65%. So there are other components of Nigerian society that ought to be doing certain things that will complement the effort. So the question of carrot and stick, or kinetic and non-kinetics, come into play. And government has a leading role to play in those instances. And you cannot.
I beg your pardon for a while. Sorry, General. I beg your pardon for interrupting you, General. So sorry about that. But Mohammed in Abuja has been holding on for a while, and I was trying not to lose him. Mohammed, thank you very much for holding on all that while. Go ahead now, if you will.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir.
Uncle Yori. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah, I quite agree with the General, because I listened to him in Arise TV with one of the lecturers from Delta, and he suggested the AI intelligence system to be used for detecting all those issues of insecurity. And the director in that university, he mentioned that sabotage and then issue of making money with insecurity is one of the major problems, and then corruption in the system, either in the security system or in the politicians or whatever. Because this bombing cannot just happen. You can see those people that detonate those bombs. How can you imagine that 6-year or 5-year girl can now have a mind to put bomb to go inside a gathering of wedding? That is impossible. It's just the issue of poverty. Number one, the president should solve the issue of poverty. That is the first thing. Because I believe they may have given the woman just 1,000 or 2,000, take this thing, enter there, then the man that is detonating is aside. When he saw them enter, he can now remove, it's a remote some issue. So the issue of poverty, the president should solve that issue first. That is the first thing the president should do, to solve the issue of poverty. Poverty created a lot of issues, Mr. Yori, and then the general knows that very well. Poverty is one of the first issue, because the director in that university, he said the insecurity, and then about, he mentioned insecurity and then hunger. solving insecurity is easier than solving hunger. So hunger is one of the basic problems we have in Nigeria today. So the president should look into that. Let him solve that problem of hunger. Because a small money will make you to go and enter everywhere. Because you don't know what you are carrying. Those children, those women, they don't know what they are carrying. Assuming they know that they cannot eat that money they give them to go and detonate that bomb, they will not do it. But because they believe that they have 1,000 or 2,000, let them go and put that in there and then come back and eat their 1,000. That is the meaning.
Okay.
Wallahi, I'm telling you, Uncle Yori, hunger is the number one issue in Nigeria today.
Okay.
Let the president tackle hunger first. We will now get solution in this issue of insecurity. I think that is no. The general knows about it. He knows what I'm saying.
Okay.
He knows. He's just diverting. But
Thank
he
you,
knows
Mohammed.
that hunger is number one everywhere, not only in Nigeria.
Thank you very much,
So
Mohammed.
have a nice.
Okay, appreciate your call. General, you heard him, but we were speaking earlier about ideology, and no matter how warped it is to the ordinary member of the society, you said that they have been indoctrinated and that they are resilient, resolute. But here is Mohammed saying that he wouldn't put too much stock on all of that. It all comes down to poverty and hunger. How would you respond with the intermix between what he says and what you said earlier, that these are terrorists that seem to be they seem to have a very tight rein on, their commanders have a tight rein on them?
Well, you see, first and foremost, when you look at how Boko Haram started, where we are now, so ideology plays a very important role. And of course, quite rightly, to a large extent, the present circumstances we found ourselves is also a trigger and contributory factor. But you can only juxtapose it with the other security challenges. Take, for instance, banditry and kidnapping. Basically, it is for commercial purpose. But we have had instances where Boko Haram is ideological. And I have personal experience. I served in one division between 2012 to 2014. And that time, Boko Haram was trying to gain a foothold on the northwestern part of the country. One division that time, its area of operational responsibility cut across 10 northern states, unlike now that we have 8 divisions and so on. Now, there was a particular IED expert that was coupling IED in Rigasa part of Kaduna. Unfortunately, or fortunately rather for him, for all of us, for good people, unfortunately for him, the bomb prematurely, detonated and killed him. His wife was there. She refused to open the door till when she mopped up everything. At the end of it, the door has to be broken. And when it was broken, they wanted to, of course, that time, there wasn't much female soldiers to. When they made effort to, handle her, she started protesting that no pagan should touch her. And we have had instances, the judge is there. When she was sentencing a terrorist in the Giwa project, they asked him, what father? He was asked, why did you kill your father? He said because he was on the wrong path of the religious belief. His own skewed religion told him that his father was wrong. The father that killed him. And he said that, look, if he gets similar opportunity, he will still kill the father so that he will not commit more sin. Do you attribute such things to hunger? And then we had an instance that I said somebody, when I was Director of Army Public Relations, donated his daughter to be a suicide bomber as part of his contribution to the cause of God. So when you look at all those things, you cannot say it is only hunger. There is no doubt about the fact that Nigerians are living in precarious situation. Things are not easy. And I am even in a better position to tell him about hunger, simply because I can mention 10 to 20 people that I know, I am so sure they may not even eat today, because I come from the rural community too. So it is a contributory factor. But to some extent, in some of these criminal activities such as banditry. But for Boko Haram, ideology plays a very important role. And it is only the indoctrination. And remember, even in those days, the suicide bombers, how did we come about, people disembarking on a motorcycle when approaching checkpoint? Because they realized they used to tie the suicide bombers to the motorcycle so that they would not run away, because they were being coerced to commit such atrocities. So it is a combination of so many factors, including the hunger that he's talking about, but ideology. And the earlier we confront both of them, the better for all of us, because there is no way you can educate somebody and to have a cordial relationship with even his neighbor if he's hungry, or talk less of the seemingly divisive tendencies between the led and those leading. So we have to close that gap, and the way to close it is to deal with the social socio-economic circumstances of an average citizen. And by the way, security challenges basically are predicated on three things: the political atmosphere, the social atmosphere, and the economic atmosphere prevailing in that society. So you have to address, and that is why we kept on talking about kinetic and non-kinetic. With the non-kinetic, it's about 65%, more than 65%, which is question of using stick and carrot. Well, the security forces are doing the best they can, but there are other things that need to be done. Take, for instance, the local government system is not working. Some of these security challenges could easily be dealt with at local level. And, people could even have loan facilities and so on and so forth. So the issue of good governance come into play so that people will, have better things to do. And, of course, they will not be walking about with an empty stomach. And they will not be enticed into criminal activities. So he's quite right in that aspect. But at the same time, Boko Haram should not discountenance the issue of ideology.
All right, then. Professor Edmund in Enugu, thank you for calling. Thank you for your patience. Go ahead now, Professor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yori. It's been a pretty long time for now. Welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. First of all, let me commend that Brigadier General. I've been listening to that man over a time when he was public relations, whatever, in the military. Very intelligent.
Public relations director
young man.
In the Nigerian army.
Yes. Very articulate military man. However, let me be frank with you, Yori. The problem is not hunger. Nigeria is not the only hungry country in the world. Our problem is governmental. Our government is not serious in solving that insecurity problem in the Northwest and generally Nigeria. So the government must call a spade a spade. We've been treating this insurgency with kids' gloves. So kinetic method should be the priority, not non-kinetic. Because even if you apply non-kinetic, if you don't dissuade those people from committing such heinous and atrocious crimes, so the government must be blamed. This issue of insecurity in Northwest and Northeast has festered for a very long time, for more than 14 years now. This is a challenge to the government and the military in particular.
Indeed. All right.
There seems to be a general lack of unity of purpose amongst Nigerians to solve that problem. Let me be frank with you. Some people are benefiting.
Okay.
Some people are benefiting from that insurgency, including the military people that are benefiting.
All right, then. Well, thank you very much for calling in, Professor. We'll take a break now, but also to just to tell you, when we come back from the break, Professor, General, you'll be able to react to some of the things that Professor Edmund in Enugu has said.